for today, we're just going to have Joel speak for a little bit, and then Ryan will speak, and then Craig will speak. And after each presenter, we'll do a Q&A. And I think we're going to try and use the group chat in the right side to do so. And if anyone knows of a better way to do it, let me know. But I think the group chat should be good. So just try and maybe keep things less cluttered over there. But yeah, I don't have much to say. I don't have anything to say here, but I will just say I appreciate Joel. Thank you for setting up the Slack. I know that it's been very helpful. I've had a lot of great conversations in it, and so thanks for setting this up too, and everything you've been doing with it, because it's been very helpful for me. So, but I guess other than that, I'll turn it over to Joel. Yeah.
Right. Hello everyone. Hi everyone. Let me know if you can't hear me, and I can fiddle with my mic thing. Right. So yeah, where we're at? We're now at the BCHclub, which I've turned this into a business and a membership type club thing with forums and such. Some people have been wondering why, and we've had newer members. Because Slack requires it, but it's not just because of Slack, because this way I can do a little bit more things, as you've seen, and we can start doing these monthly meetings and organizing a little bit more. You know, I think we've all kind of had a taste of what it's kind of like out there, and it's nice to kind of have a break from it and have a bit of a sit back and just a chat with people who've got a bit of sense, really. But I won't go too much into that. But you know, this place is really for relaxing, coming back, and just not just talking about Bitcoin. We do have other rooms, so join other rooms as well, which you can just chill out and talk about random stuff or post music. Where we are now, as I said, a little business. We're going to aim to grow. We're going to do things like this, monthly things, and I've got some other things we've got planned as well with this video, which we might talk a little bit about later, but we're not going to reveal that yet. We're going to wait a few days and let that come out by itself. And yeah, we're just going to see how things go. I'd like to see where things are in 6 months' time. This has kind of come on me a little bit unexpected, but it's kind of all thanks to you guys, thanks to everyone kind of keeping the whole Bitcoin vision and making sure, you know, the word gets out there, that truth gets out there, and that people actually understand how things work. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I was going to do a short one anyway. Do you want to talk a little bit and then introduce next guest? We've got Ryan here, haven't we? Where's Ryan? Yeah, there he is. Brilliant. I'm gonna. Do you want to unmute him? I'll unmute him.
Yeah. And I guess I'll just say, does anyone have any questions for Joel before we move on? I'll give it 10 seconds in the chat. Maybe not. And if not, we will introduce Ryan Charles. I'm sure everyone already knows who he is, but if you don't, currently the CEO of Money Button and doing some very, very wonderful stuff there. Ryan, I actually don't know what you're going to talk about, so you can surprise us.
Well, let me, so what I would like to talk about is what I call the onboarding problem. But actually, maybe we can kind of pose this as a question, just because just today there was this stuff around. I made 2 videos today on basically DataSig Verify and also Bitcoin at scale. But I think the DataSig Verify thing is clearly more interesting to people. This is kind of alerted the interest of Andrew Stone and Amari. Both were responding to this. But I really would rather talk about the onboarding problem. So maybe just let me start there, and then basically if you guys would rather I talk about other stuff, I guess, if you have questions or something like that, we can do that in addition to or instead of. But let me start with onboarding, just because I think this is really important right now and underappreciated. So I went to this event last weekend, or when was it? Gosh, it was last week. I think it was like Monday through Wednesday. An event put together by DCG. So DCG is a venture capital firm, basically, that invests in a lot of companies in the industry, in cryptocurrency. Obviously not just Bitcoin, though. They were originally Bitcoin only, but things changed and they started branching out, investing in a bunch of other stuff. We raised $75K from them in late 2016. So not a whole lot of money by venture capital standards, but we did raise money from them, and they've been really supportive since then. Now, I was at this event, and basically for the past couple of weeks, I've been consumed with this idea of onboarding, because now that we finally launched Money Button solves a really cool problem, which is a way to actually introduce new people to crypto, because you can put Money Button on any website really easily. It's extremely easy. It's literally just like the Facebook like button. You go to configure a Facebook like button, pick your options, and then literally copy and paste it into the HTML on your website. You do the same thing with Money Button, except it's money, it's not likes. And so we really do have, I think, the world's simplest payment system. Of course, our company is not the payment system. The payment system is the blockchain. We're really an API and a UI UX layer for the blockchain. So anyway, the problem we solve is actually putting this in front of people's faces, because you can put Money Button on websites that have nothing to do with crypto. So now, after having launched, we now are confronted with the problem that we knew we would have to solve, that we basically have to solve right now, if we're actually going to get global adoption, if we're actually going to get new people into the space, which is basically, how do they actually get crypto? So this turns out to be really hard. And so the idea is that, imagine you see, here's my favorite example. Imagine you go to the New York Times or any other publication, and they tell you you can't read this article because you've already read your 3 free articles that you can read. You need to sign up for our monthly subscription that costs $5 per month or whatever it is. There should be an option where you can just swipe Money Button and buy the article right there immediately, which you can do right now with Money Button. They could add it in and it would work. The problem is, imagine we actually did partner with the New York Times to do this. It wouldn't work because their audience does not already have Bitcoin Cash. So if they actually tried to use Money Button, they go through our onboarding process and be like, what is this? How do I scan a QR code to cash in? So they wouldn't be able to do so. So the problem we're trying to solve now is basically, how do we enable these people to easily get Bitcoin Cash, because it's all based on Bitcoin Cash, not crypto in general. How do we enable them to get it? So this turns out to be really hard. So if you actually have an adoption mentality here, like how do we actually onboard new people? How are they actually going to get it? So I'll speak from a US perspective because I'm based here, and this is the type of thing that's actually really different in different countries. So different countries either have it harder or they have it easier than the US. In the US, it's actually quite hard because you can't just use a credit card, because many of the banks in the US actually block cryptocurrency purchases with credit cards as of earlier this year. So as of about March, all the major banks block cryptocurrency purchases. So we can't simply provide a credit card option, or rather we can, but it's only going to work for like 10% of people. Not to mention that after we partner with somebody like Coinbase and Simplex, they actually don't service every country. So a credit card option just doesn't work for most people. So it'll work for some people, and that's great. And we can actually do things like where we focus on a market where it actually works for them. So that's something we'll do. Another thing is, okay, so what if you try to onboard and a credit card doesn't work for you? We can provide tons and tons of other ways to onboard people. So another idea I had is there are a number of loan markets where we could partner with a market where they can actually loan it to you for some period of time. And then you have to then sign up at an exchange, presumably, to actually buy it back in the next week or something like that, and then pay it back. This could work. You could imagine loaning it to new people. In order for this to really work, you'd probably have to do a little bit of KYC, because we don't want to be loaning money to bots or to people that won't ever pay it back. So you'd probably have to auth somehow for this to work. We can also do things like empower people to easily earn it. So what if we could do things like, during the onboarding process, if you are an author, we channel you to write an article on yours.org. And then simultaneously, we channel that article to people that are actually interested in it. And so maybe you can actually earn your way in 1 hour by actually writing an article that easily, or maybe presumably posting an article you already wrote, but monetizing it now. Or maybe you can edit an existing article or something like that, or anything else you could do with content. If you can't write it, maybe you can create music or who knows what, or anything else. We could even do things like Mechanical Turk, where we provide little things for people. They can fill out surveys, or they can, characterize images or something like that, and actually earn enough money in 1 hour that it's actually useful. So that's an option for people. Other options are things like, what if you could physically buy it from someone in the real world? So we know where you're located because either based on IP address, or maybe you just tell us. We can channel you to other people in the real world that have crypto. In Argentina, there's a service where people will actually bicycle to your house to buy or sell crypto to you. So in Argentina, they have a service like this already. They'll literally ride a bicycle to your house and sell you crypto. Well, that'd be cool in Argentina. It'd be cool to have something like that everywhere. So anyway, these are like a suite of possibilities. And over time, we thought of all these different things. So one option is we combine all these into an onboarding process. That basically, whoever you are, we give you the best onboarding process for you. Or, so there's all that stuff. Or, I thought of another idea last week, and what I'm going to say is going to sound extremely obvious. It sounds so obvious that it sounds like I didn't figure anything out at all. Except that if you imagine you actually try to create an onboarding process that I just described, that actually has all of those things in it, it'd be really hard. And I was telling people, like all the people we're working with, I'm like, okay, so here's our new mission. We got to solve the onboarding problem. But if you actually do all these things, this is going to take us like 2 years. So what is the easiest thing we can actually do in like 3 months? So it'd be like a shallow subset of the things I just described, which would be better than nothing. Or we do something else. And the other thing is, okay, I look at other companies like Facebook. I look at Facebook because Facebook has billions of users. Well, that's what we want in Bitcoin Cash. So from that point of view, they're a role model. Now, Bitcoin Cash is nothing whatsoever like Facebook, but in the sense of onboarding people, we're a lot like them. And I actually prefer the example of Instagram right now because Instagram is growing more quickly than Facebook is. Of course, it's owned by Facebook. But Instagram has about 1 billion users, and they're still onboarding people very quickly. So you can download Instagram, you can sign up, and you can post an image in about 1 minute. So that's the goal. We want to be like Instagram. It should be something where you can onboard in 1 minute. So again, imagine the scenario where you see Money Button on a new website, and you're someone who doesn't know anything about crypto or Bitcoin Cash. You just click Money Button, and you're sufficiently interested in it so as to click the button. And we want to make the onboarding process as fluid as possible. Well, the way to make it as fluid as possible is to just give you crypto. We'll give everyone $10 USD in crypto. That way we can actually give it to you in 1 minute. Now, we want to do this for the entire world, which means something like 5 billion people. How are we going to give $10 to 5 billion people? That would cost $50 billion. We don't have anywhere near $50 billion. Even for people that do have $50 billion, I don't think they're going to give us $50 billion just to distribute it to new users. But there's a way we could do this, which is if we're earning about $15 per user per year on average, then we know we're going to earn that money back. So this is exactly what Facebook does. Facebook earns $15 per user per year, approximately. They don't earn the same amount of money from every user because some users basically are well suited to the type of ads they show you because Facebook is entirely funded by ads and Money Button is not. But the point here is that we could do something where we know factually that we are able to earn $15 per user per year on average. That doesn't mean that we necessarily earn $15 per every user. So I'll give you one example. One example is imagine we somehow convince the users to sign up for $15 per year and they pay with a credit card. So they could do like a yearly subscription. That's one idea. But it doesn't have to be that way. Another idea would be that they actually pay $150 per year, but only 1 in 10 people sign up. Or it's not the users at all. It's actually the merchants or the website owners or the publications, whoever's using Money Button. They pay us however much money for whatever features in such a way that we know on average, we're earning $15 per user per year. So my discovery last week was just this notion, which again, it sounds completely obvious when I say it like this, but it was actually new to me. It's just the idea that if we know that we're earning $15 on average per user per year, we can front the money to new users. We can actually give each new user 10 USD to sign up for Money Button, and we know we're going to earn it back. So now we have a new challenge, which is I don't know which business model is correct to actually do this, but I'm certain it can be done because there are companies that do stuff like this. I mean, we're going to earn some amount of money per user. We put it in those terms, and we design whatever the business model is in such a way that we know that we're able to do that, so that we know we can afford it and that we can afford to front the money because we know we're going to earn it back. So that's my new idea. That's the innovation. I guess I can stop there and maybe either take comments or questions, and then if there are none or something like that, I can move on to another subject.
Sure. So what I'll do is I kind of thought this, if you do have a question that you want to ask and you don't want to type it out in the chat, if you just want to put like an I or something in the chat, then I can just call on you and unmute you, and you can ask Ryan yourself. And I guess while anyone that does that puts it in, I guess my question for you generally is, you brought this up about like surveys and things like that as an easy way to onboard it, users. have you had any conversations with some of the larger players like Instagram or Facebook? I know you probably can't talk about much of that, but I'm just curious, like it is something as simple as adding a like button to a website. And I think I'd be curious, have you had any conversations in Silicon Valley with people that are like interested in the concept?
Good question. So we've kind of avoided that till now. So that's basically exactly the mode we're in now. So this is where it's actually nice that I live in San Francisco and I can literally, in many of these cases, actually walk to these people's offices. Like Twitter and Medium and Pinterest are literally walking distance from where I live. So, and Reddit, and tons of other ones. And Facebook and Google have offices here too. So I can do that. I haven't done that at all though, because all the people we've talked to so far basically came to us, which worked up to this point. So the situation we're in now from a business perspective is, okay, we're really pivoting because we made yours.org first. That's a totally separate subject, but MoneyButton is really a pivot because I think it's a bigger idea and it's actually a simpler idea. It's something where we don't have to necessarily solve the world's problem in a single website. We create a tool that any website or app can use. So we don't have to reinvent Pinterest. We can partner with Pinterest directly. So it's a great idea, and there are actually several different verticals we can pursue. Vertical number one is, all right, it would be amazing to partner with any one of these companies. We get one of these companies like Pinterest, put MoneyButton on there, we change the world, right? So that is definitely what I call a vertical. It's a valid vertical, is like the biz dev perspective of what we're gonna do is, we're gonna partner with one or multiple of the biggest social media networks we can. And that would be amazing. We only need one. Let's say if we just get one of these companies, we're good. There are several completely different verticals that we're looking at right now. So the other verticals are things like, okay, what about WordPress blogs? So we can make it, so something like 1/3 of the internet is WordPress blogs, and some fraction of that are actually content creators, all of which are dying for some new way to monetize their content because ads are terrible and there's just no easy way for them to accept payments for stuff. Well, that's exactly what MoneyButton is. You can literally just easily sell digital content behind a paywall. That's the easiest thing. But there are tons of other things you can do because we provide multiple outputs and all this other stuff, currency conversion, everything. So you can use MoneyButton for any way to monetize content. So we could deliberately target WordPress blogs. Once again, we would actually change the world in a very different way. We could do both of these things, of course, but from a focus point of view, like if we know who we're targeting, we can talk with those people and we can develop whatever specific features they need for that thing, like a WordPress plugin. Obviously, if we want to do WordPress, we should make our own WordPress plugin. If we're partnering with Pinterest, who cares if they don't use WordPress? We'll do some other thing. So the stuff that we have to build is different depending on this. Several other verticals, just for the sake of mentioning them, are video games. Video games love this. We can create new options for video games. They all like micropayments, but they all do it in an inadequate way. You can never cash out. If you earn money in Fortnite, you can't just pay rent with the money you earn from Fortnite. So we need to make it so that you can actually have real micropayments, that inside the video game, you actually earn money that you can spend in the real world. Porn is another one. Porn would definitely work with MoneyButton. We've imagined tons of different apps that you could make or ways we could partner with existing porn companies. Totally different vertical. Obviously, the unique requirements of that industry are just going to be different than these other industries. Another one is newspapers. Again, newspapers are just unique and different. If we partner with the New York Times, it's completely different than WordPress blogs and video games and so on. So basically, the situation now is I'm trying to figure out. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say you want cam girls, not porn.
Yes, exactly. Yes, we do. It should be more social than it is porn. It's not in fact, I even thought about it from the point of view, what we should really make is like a socially liberal social network, where on Instagram, if you show your whatever, they like ban you, but you could do it. Imagine we make that just acceptable because we're not funded by ads. We actually don't care if some advertiser doesn't want their ads on the website. If your users are paying you, directly. So yes, cam girls is definitely the way to think about it, in my opinion. So we're in a situation where we're going to pick a vertical. So I'm trying to just get feedback from other people about this. We'll probably explore several simultaneously, and if one is outstanding, we'll go with that one. So there's no way I'm not going to at least try to reach out to Pinterest and Medium and Twitter, because it's going to be very easy to get in touch with these companies. And we'll see, because that would be like striking gold, right? I mean, imagine instead of a retweet button, there's a money button, And you can do things like on Twitter, integrate payments. Yeah, I mean, like that's just, I mean, but there are like millions and millions of ways this could work. And yeah, partnering with a company like that would be amazing. So we'll explore all these options. I don't think I'm going to just be able to make some single decision about this near term because they're so different. What I'm going to do is explore all of them over, say, the next month. I'll try to reach out to some of these companies, but we'll also talk to WordPress blogs, the Cam Girls. We'll talk with a number of these people and basically figure out, does one clear vertical stand out above and beyond the others? If so, then we'll go with that one. And the only exception would just be porn, because basically I don't particularly want to operate a porn company, nor do the people at the company want to do that either. So that's kind of exceptional just because it's just like, because it's this, you know, slightly for better or for worse is just kind of not, you know what I mean? Without, sure. I can't think of the right word, but you know exactly what I'm saying, that if another vertical is equally as good, we're going to do the other one instead. But yeah, we're looking at all the options, and we're gonna move in one direction probably, just because I'm sure that focusing on one is going to make our lives easier rather than try to solve every problem simultaneously.
Great. We'll move to Steve Shatters has a question.
Sorry, just unmuting myself. Yeah, hi Ryan. I'm really happy to see the rise of the money button. I don't know if you might recall, I've been nagging you about doing something like this for WordPress sites for quite some time. So it's great that you're doing it. Now, what you're describing, I think you acknowledge that it might not be a new idea. In fact, it's particularly, I think the idea of, you know, your $10 and modeling it on you expect $15 revenue per person. It's a model I think that's been around in the affiliate marketing business for quite some time, and that's definitely an area that I think that you should look to for inspiration. Onboarding someone like Twitter or Pinterest or whatever, I think that's definitely an option for you down the track. But probably you need to build some user base beforehand. And I think that your idea has definitely got legs. And I'm just going to pitch another one at you, which is something that I have seen in the affiliate marketing space before. It's the idea of pay per share or pay per tweet. Essentially, in the models where I've seen it done before, someone's got some content locked up, or they're angling to try and get your email address to subscribe to a list or something like that. And they use the bait and switch. So they say, oh, you can pay $5 for this, or you can just share it on Facebook, or you can tweet it. Now, I can envisage a model where that could work quite neatly, because what you've got there is someone who's actually already interested in the content, who just has to share it on Facebook saying, hey, I'm about to read this. On Facebook, a click like that you'd be paying several dollars for, so you know, that's a highly targeted audience already. Reaching all of their friends is probably got a good chance you're gonna reach a few others as well. So I can envisage, even if it's a 5-cent article or a 10-cent article or something, it would probably be in the person's interest, in the content provider's interest, to say, okay, well, I'll give you free access to the article plus 10 cents. Just to sort of seed your wallet, and new users could run around and gather funds that way, simply by virally marketing to everyone else.
I love it. I think it's a great idea. I don't think we've thought of that particular idea. So I would say the only minor issue I see with that is that we still kind of have to work our way out of crypto, which is to say, imagine you see this button. In order, like, all the money has to come from people that already have crypto. So if assuming it's not, I mean, we could also imagine adding in an advertising option or something like that, which is one way to solve that. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that there's no ads. You would actually have to share it with people that pay for it with money, like with crypto, with Bitcoin Cash. So otherwise, we have no money to give back to that person. But if you do it some different, you see what I'm saying? Like, basically, where does the money actually come from? They would have to share it with other, right now, because right now, sadly, we don't even have alternate cryptos, because we used to have a Shapeshift onboarding option where if you held ETH, you could cash in with ETH. So this was great if for no other reason than marketing, because we go around telling everybody that we support every crypto, even though it's based on Bitcoin Cash. We don't have that anymore because Shapeshift shut off their API. So right now you can only cash in with money with Bitcoin Cash, which means if you want to do that, you want to earn money by sharing it with people, you would actually have to share it with people that already have Bitcoin Cash because they're going to have to pay for it so that we can channel some of that money to you for sharing it. So it's a great idea. Now, we could expand it if we did ads. Because if you share it with someone that looks at it and the advertiser can pay really with whatever, and we can convert it into crypto and pay you. So it works with an advertising-based model, I think. So first of all, good idea. Secondly, do I fully understand what you're saying? And what do you think about those comments?
Sorry, I got muted again. I do understand the problem that you're talking about. It's the chicken and egg problem. But I think when you consider the sheer value of a Facebook view, it's astronomical at the moment compared to most cost per clicks. You would only need a very small number of those people to actually go, rather than get access to this article by sharing it myself. I'm actually going to buy the crypto. You would have enough, I think, I'd have to do the maths, but I think you'd have enough to bring them on board. You still might have to front some money up front, I think. But it's definitely a potentially viral way of getting it out there. If you want to, we can talk offline later and sort of nut out some of the details.
Sure. I think it's an excellent idea, though. I don't think we've thought of that exact idea as a basically sharing as an onboarding mechanism. I think it's a great idea.
All right, we'll move on. Brendan, looks like your question is resolved. So Ryan, maybe the next question is, how do you deal with fake users if you are going to go down the route of giving away free money?
So we're trying to stay as close to the idea that you don't have to sign up for a lot of reasons, which is that it's just easier. If you don't have to sign up, there's less stuff for you to do. When it comes to things like, how to not be scanned by bots, we are almost certainly going to have KYC. We're going to do things like you're almost certainly in the next month, we're going to add optional phone auth. And the only way we're going to give anybody crypto is if you auth with your phone. So this isn't something that will be, basically if you're a cypherpunk who absolutely refuses to give any attachment to your real world identity, this isn't going to work for you. But I think that for like 90% of people, they're going to be okay giving their phone number so that we have a greater level of assurance that you are not a bot. And it's probably going to be something like phone number plus one other social network. So maybe you auth in with Facebook or Twitter or whatever, something like that. So we're going to have to design some type of KYC process that not for for money transmitter reasons, but just to eliminate the possibility that you're a bot. Or to put it differently, it's an anti-Sybil, mechanism. So we'll have to do stuff like that. And we're not going to give money to people that don't do that, because otherwise we're just going to get scammed out of all the money.
All right, and we're going to try and move this forward. So we'll have one last question. And then maybe later on, Ryan, I think maybe we can talk about all the stuff you've been putting out today and all that, because I think that's a whole other topic that's also interesting. Yeah. But maybe the last question George asked, what's stopping other people from building a duplicate of the money button?
Well, very little. I mean, first of all, if you want to make there's nothing stopping you. You can make, you mean like a whole other company. I mean, you certainly can. I think this is an example where there's actually a strong network effect. So our goal here is actually to grow very quickly, because the more websites and apps that use money button, the less reason you have for any other competitor. But there's nothing stopping you from making a competitor. And if you already have a large audience, like if you wanted to beat us, what you should do is partner with any large audience and actually onboard them. And then you're going to outgrow us. Then people won't have a reason to use money button. They're going to use whatever that other thing is, because once you're on to one of them, it's kind of annoying if there's a bunch of them, right? The way I think about it is it's like your internet spending money. We want this to be predominantly content websites, right? That's the idea anyway, where it's stuff that you just wouldn't be able to use traditional payment systems for, but that money button's perfect for that. But I'll give you a bunch of practical reasons why other companies aren't doing exactly what we're doing. I think that other companies don't understand Bitcoin Cash, for starters. If other people did it, they're probably going to pick a different one. They're going to pick Stellar or Ripple. In fact, our funded competitor is actually based on Stellar. Now, I could go into it's kind of a separate issue. Just for the sake of time, I won't explain. I'm sure I wouldn't need to convince anyone here. But I think Bitcoin Cash is better in every way than Stellar. I don't consider Stellar to be a very good candidate, but it is better than, say, Bitcoin Core, which is not even an option. You couldn't use that. So yeah, you could do it. There's nothing stopping us. We don't have any patents right now. I mean, one way I've considered of making it difficult for competitors is start patenting things. And I'm certain there are things we've done that are patentable. However, that just takes time and effort, and I'm focused on trying to make sure we build a good product first rather than going around patenting stuff. So we're taking it's just, let's make sure it actually works for people first, and then grow as quickly as possible so that we don't provide a way for competitors to beat us. We need to just be the absolute best and fastest growing product, and we'll just win that way, and there won't be competitors.
Great. I know there might be a few more questions, but we're going to move on to Craig for now, but maybe we'll come back and at least we can keep it an hour now, and then we'll maybe bring it back to a larger Q&A and just a discussion for everyone later on. That way we can remain respectful of everyone's time. So Ryan, thank you very much. It's very interesting. And we're going to move on to Craig. And Craig, I don't know what you're talking about either, so you can take it away. Yeah.
Okay, hello from Singapore today. So basically what Ryan is talking about is quite correct. It's a network effect. I mean, there's no one couldn't really replicate.
I think we lost him for a second here. We'll give him a sec.
Sorry about that. I just dropped out for a second.
That's all right. You're back.
Yep, the internet data pack ran out right at the point we're talking, and of course doesn't auto refresh, which is really annoying. Okay, so again, welcome from Singapore. One of the things people have got to start realizing is that the whole reason for money is a ledger. We just want a record of what we've been doing. We want a way of keeping track. We want to have something that doesn't change. And throughout history, the problem with gold hasn't been that gold, well, it's easy to take, it's easy to, has many other problems, but the reality is when you then protect it, if you've got any decent amount, it's easy for governments and other such things to start playing with it. When the sterling was set at one rate and no bonds or anything were altering it, and we weren't relying on paper refunds, then it was nice and stable. Now, interestingly enough, and I'm in the process of writing some papers on this, it's actually, people think that Bitcoin can't be money because, well, there's no law or anything like that. And I've been spending a fair bit of time doing the legal research into this, and it actually turns out there is a lot of good law. And our British friends have sort of a lot to offer here, because they've managed to go and dig themselves into a hole in the past with Ireland. So, of course, while I'm talking, all the traffic starts. Now, the fun bit is that the British, the UK, offered tokenized money in the past. Not many people realize that, but there's a case from 1601 that is still considered good law. It went through the High Court. It was called Re Grimes. So it was a case in Northern Ireland where a individual had a loan that was to be paid in English money. Now, the argument here when he did it was English money, what is that? And the court decided that these token coins that were issued to Ireland that were mostly copper, not actually silver, because they found a way of paying for the war was to make tokenized coins and give the Irish a 90% copper silver coin. So it was actually considered token money. And the High Court actually called it token money. So when the Lords all ruled on this, they ruled on the first token money case in 1601. And that was upheld in 1879 and then again in 1899, and even in a recent case in 2005. So funny enough, Bitcoin as token money actually has legal support. Just most people don't dig into the law deep enough to understand this. So the interesting thing though is what we want with money is something that is easy to use. Now, that doesn't mean the ideal of total anonymity, the ring of Gyges, because when we have total anonymity, we have lots of problems. We want pseudonymy, we want privacy. We don't want people finding out all we're doing. We want people to have to earn the right to know what we're doing, but at the same time, we want to build trust. And the funny thing that many people don't get is anonymous money can't be trusted. That's a simple statement, but the reality is when you're trading or contracting with people, a large part of what is occurring is an exchange knowing that something in the future is going to occur. Now, you can put all these silly things in there like Core want to do, having channels that have punishment mechanisms and build your Rube Goldberg machine. And the reality is it's too complex. People just want to deal with another person. Now, if you're a cypherpunk and you sit in your basement and you never deal with anyone other than grandma, then this is probably not an issue for you. But in the real world, business, commerce happens because people interact. And you can't be anonymous and interact. Even drug dealers interact with people. So this is the whole thing we've got to get over. Privacy, good. You and I contract, we know each other's identity. Good. We can prove it in court. Good. The rest of the world knowing who we are, bad. And the silly thing is, most of what has actually become the foundation of Bitcoin has moved more and more away from the privacy aspect. In their attempt to make it more anonymous, they've actually made it less private. And if you look at the schemes that they use for hierarchical wallets and whatever else, there are ways of proving the linkages after the event and following all this. And it shouldn't be. It's just badly done. So rather than maximize privacy, all of these silly things that they're doing, minimize it. Rather than trying to make it so that you can use any wallet and send back and forths and not have to be a miner, because miners start getting less and less privacy over time. You record IP addresses, you monitor everything. I mean, I've got IP addresses of practically every node going back to 2009. So the reality is people will start matching this. People will, the US government already records it. The Chinese government already records it. So your best thing is just pop onto the network on a random whatever and send something. That's it.
You touched on a lot of things. I'm going to open just generally up if anyone has a question. I do have a quick question for you because I'm curious. Do you see any future of pure anonymity in Bitcoin? I remember when you first gave the presentation at it was in Arnhem, you said something about like making it impossible for Palantir to look at Bitcoin transactions. Is it something that you don't want to kick the hornet's nest too soon? Do you see a future for it at all, or do you see what I'm saying there?
No, but that's a different issue. That's privacy. Okay, you and I interacting should be able to do it in a way that Palantir have no idea who we're interacting with and what happens. That's really an issue of ensuring that coins don't rejoin if we don't want them to, that I send to different wallets, that I isolate and compartmentalize wallets. That's completely separate to this idea that the way we're doing it now. but it doesn't require anything new. It requires implementation. It requires better SPV wallets. It requires better compartments on wallets. For instance, no wallet yet has a I want my change never to be mixed option, or I want this group and this group and this group to be separate. I mean, treat it like a virtual compartment where if you send from this group, it never mixes, or if it does it in one block so that it looks like you're transacting with someone else. Then it just screws them up.
Makes sense. It doesn't look like we have any questions yet. If I do have a discussion, I think I want to take this. I'm just going to see if I can take this direction to kind of link the two things that we've been talking about. Because I think what I found interesting when Ryan has given his videos, and one of the things that very common theme in a lot of his videos, and it's a very common theme when you talk, is I think a lot of the reason why all of us are here is creating hard sound money, right?
Yes.
And making money that is stable.
That is the killer app. This is what everyone keeps going. They keep going, oh, but what if we found a different thing? The killer app is hard sound money. Stop trying to soften Bitcoin. Killer app, hard money. And no one trusts it at the moment because we keep making it less hard.
And to go along the lines of this, I'm sure you've seen what Ryan's been talking about with subsidization with respect to DataSig Verify, right? I guess what I would like to talk about is, I guess, number one, your general thoughts on the DataSig Verify opcode in general, if you do want to talk about it. But then also this idea of scripts having an economic cost associated with them. And how are we supposed to treat this moving forward with any introduction of any new opcodes in general, or just the economics of script, I guess. Do you want to talk generally about that?
It's very simple. You pay for what you're doing. You don't subsidize it. I don't really give a rat's, and I'm not going to play nice to people anymore. Not that I have in the past, but we're mining. We're partnered with CoinGeek. We're partnered with others. We will have 50% support. And that doesn't mean an attack. That means we're not letting you change fuck. That's it. You're not doing it. You're not putting in new opcodes. You can waste all the time. That's your right. You're not doing it. We are not allowing a new opcode that wasn't there in 0.1.0. If you don't like that, make a freaking alt, because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, you cannot do that wasn't there in the original version of Bitcoin. This whole Bitcoin is Turing complete, Craig's a tool, to now Bitcoin is Turing complete. Oh, it's so obvious. Well, guess what? You finally figured it out. That means you can do all this stuff. That simple. You don't need anything else. You can do everything there. And nothing says that you should have free use of being able to put things on chain at all. There's no reason, and for some reason I've got a military jet going over me and making noise in the background. Right before the meeting it was really quiet out here, but now it's being noisy. There's no reason to subsidize these things. The killer app is money. That is the one that should be the killer app. So everyone wants to keep changing that, moving the goalposts. Now, next thing is, permissionless is a scam, a sham, a lie, and a whole lot of bullshit. There's no such thing. You cannot have a permissionless bloody token. You cannot have a permissionless share. Everything exists in the freaking real world. Like it or not, the Americans can shut websites down. The Americans can shut other things down. I've dealt with it a long time. I mean, I remember Kelvin, I remember others in the industry, basically all getting shut down. So they can pull websites, they can pull other things. You always have someone. Permissionless doesn't exist because it's not AI. It's not something sitting there independently on the blockchain. There's always people. You and I interact. We are not permissionless, we are people. That simple. I buy a share, then it's a share I bought from you. I don't know why this is so hard to get for people. There is nothing new in Bitcoin along these things. So my answer to things like, is there a baseline cost or whatever else? If it's not a opcode for a real reason, if it's not there because something's broken, for instance, there's a major compromise in SHA-256 or something like this, it ain't going in. Just forget it. That simple. There's no need for it. It is not happening. We'll mine at a loss to make sure that this happens. You can call that whatever you want. If I have 10%, I'll do enough to make it unprofitable on 10% to fuck up everyone's life, to make it completely, utterly, irrevocably useless for 50% of the miners who will drop off. And I will keep doing it until basically everyone drops off as a miner because they're not making damn money, until they decide they don't want this shit in the coin. So that's my answer to you. If you want to mine, we have enough that we will mine and lose profit until you're bankrupted, the end. So there are lots of things we need to get rid of. Now, as Steve was saying in the background, the idea of chain transactions and whatever else, all those things need to be.
Might have internet packet loss again. Give him a second.
Yeah, I'm back again.
Yep,
sorry about that. The fun of having, they won't let me buy the pack in more than little tiny megabyte chunks, so I have to keep, to protect myself, I guess. Yeah. Nanny state here in Singapore. And for some reason, I now have a whole pile of military jets going back and forwards in the background. So, so yes, the current baseline is the opcodes that were in 0.1. Unfortunately, there are a few extras. CLTV's been added, so can't get rid of it. Pay to script hash is a load of shit, but we can't get rid of it. This is the problem people don't get. Once you've added it to the coin, it's there. So,
is there an argument to be made that why are the originals enough? Why? That's what I keep seeing in response to Ryan's everything he puts out. Is just like they just criticize the fact that, well, DSV can do this and it's better than what's already there. Why is what's there good enough?
Because it's money. Okay. Why are you wanting to add DSV? What is the killer app that you want to do? The argument is we can make permissionless gambling. Okay, two answers to that. One, you can do it without DSV. DSV is a load of shit, bloody red herring when they say this. You can make gambling without it. Two, there's no fucking thing as permissionless. People keep going, Satoshi Dice is permissionless. Satoshi Dice is licensed. They have a gaming license. They pay tax. They are not freaking permissionless. Get over it. They also started blocking Americans and whatever else, although not terribly well. But that's the whole point. None of these are permissionless. They actually have a license. So you can argue, oh, we can do this without a license. Yes, and I can pick up a gun and I can walk into a bank and I can shoot the bank teller in the head, run around crazily, and I'm permissionless until they shoot me in the head.
I think, Steve, you put a 1. Is that? Do you have a comment or question? Or if not, I can move on. I don't know if that's what that was for.
Sorry, it was meant to be an I. Yeah, no, it's actually a question for Craig, but before I ask it, I'm just going to point out that this is absolutely not a planted question. I didn't know that this meeting was even happening until an hour ago, and I didn't realize Craig was even going to be here. I just wanted to go back to the Turing complete stuff because this is a question I've asked you in the office a few times before, and you gave me usual obscure answers, and I'm hoping in front of a larger audience you might give a less obscure answer. Often people talk about the Turing completeness of script, and I think that you normally talk about the Turing completeness of Bitcoin, and I think the two are quite different things because
yes.
Bitcoin can be a series of scripts and a series of transactions. And what I often hear people saying when they're criticizing your papers and whatever is that script being Turing complete is complete bullshit. So my question is script in and of itself a single script Turing complete, or is it Bitcoin as a total system that is?
Okay. Script is Turing complete in the same way that any computer is Turing complete. It has limits and it has bounds. Given an unbounded script, it is Turing complete. Now, will an unbounded script happen? Well, that would imply that effectively you have no miner limits, you have miners willing to take 4 gigabyte transactions, and one day this will occur. One day you will have exabyte and petabyte and zettabyte transactions occurring, but I mean we're talking 2100 probably for that sort of thing. But the reality is things will grow to that level. This is the fun of a sort of exponentially increasing world. Now, the reality is everyone is getting the idea of Turing completeness utterly wrong. A Turing complete machine is a machine that can calculate any calculable number. These ideas of I can make an infinite, wrong. Turing specifically said it was not infinite. It is a finite machine. So you cannot throw a non sequitur or red herring or anything out there and go, what if I have an infinite machine? That's not a Turing machine. Turing, in his paper, said a finite machine. So that's number one. Number two, it must end. Now, we can't tell whether a program or anything will end. But if it doesn't end, then it's not calculable. And there's a difference between saying calculate pi to n digits to calculate pi. And people pull this one up all the time without understanding the math behind it. If I say calculate pi to more digits than anyone has done before, then you take the number that is there before and make it n plus 1. That's unbounded, but it's still a number. So you make an n plus 1 script, so what? Now, the problem people have is too many people are going through university without actually reading the source documents anymore. They read these trash little textbooks that started getting it wrong in the 70s, literally, not understanding some of the base material. So Bitcoin is, in script, a Wang B machine. That allows you to have knowledge proofs, and those knowledge proofs will allow you to split it into functions. Now, it's more efficient than having every unrolled possibility in one script to create linked scripts. And in linked scripts, you can have an unbounded number of possibilities. So it is possible in script, but like everything else, it's more efficient doing it other ways. But to be able to do that, you first of all need to have the possibility to solve it in script. So as you've seen, some of the things we've filed use the signature calculations and other such things to set knowledge proofs that are then used by the next script. For instance, we can use the actual signature in a script. So the signature from the last script can be used in the next script. And it can be actually part of a calculation. And you can do that with sort of some of the things that we talked about as well, hash chains and whatever else, to have a bounded path that is computationally infeasible to calculate otherwise, but simple one way. So you create a simple one-way function that links all of your transactions that is computationally infeasible to change, and then you have a set of paths. On top of that, everyone keeps thinking that malleability is a bad thing. Why? That's only if a miner malleates it. Why would a miner malleate it? Now, number one is you can't get past malleation. There's always malleation. I don't care what you have. ECDSA in any form, including SegWit, is always malleable. This argument that it's not malleable, well, that only comes when it has been settled, which is the whole core argument. Oh, it's not safe because with a zero conf, someone can do X. Well, you can do X if you spend a lot of money bribing miners, but there are other ways around that too. You can have a transaction chain that only takes as the next value the high value of the last one, and checks if it's malleated, that it then pays alternately. So you can account for the malleation. So people are too busy sitting there in their little ivory towers thinking what they think Bitcoin should be, rather than actually trying to figure out what it is.
Okay. I'm going to ask another question just to keep it brief. I'm probably going to ask it in a way that no one else is going to make any sense to anyone else. And if I get the right answer, I'll explain what I'm talking about. If I get the wrong answer, I won't bother because it's a waste of everyone's time. You were talking about linking scripts, as in one transaction to another. Is this in somehow related to Ying's work with importing transaction data into a script?
Ying has one variation of that.
Yeah.
There are actually many different ways of doing it.
Okay. All right. All right. So for everyone else's benefit, then there is a technique that we dug up from the archives in the last few months that allows you to actually import the content of a transaction into a script, which does, from my brief look at it, does appear to enable you to carry over state from one script to another. I do believe there's going to be something published about that soon, but if anyone's particularly interested, the paper's not secret. I'm happy to show it to people in private.
More than that, you can actually embed transactions within transactions with conditionals. So I won't go into all the details about that yet. I'll just put that as a teaser. But I could have transaction A and transaction B that can be spent with a conditional that unlocks either transaction A or B in a transaction.
Well, thank you guys. If you want to put more, looks like a lot of people would like more information on that. So maybe post that in the Slack at some point would be great. I just want to check, we're about at an hour. Craig, Ryan, are you guys okay to stay on a little bit longer, another half hour or so? It looks like we have more questions. I just want to be respectful of everyone's time here.
Yeah, I'm fine at the moment.
Okay. So Craig, looks like Brendan had a question saying, he'd like to hear your thoughts on Sequence, which was bastardized into something else by Core. I don't quite understand what it does, but I feel like it's important for implementing some type of script functionality that we aren't aware of yet. Is there a way to undo Core fuckery?
And Sequence is still there. Basically what happens is most miners have been told to ignore it, so they do. Now that is going to be changing. So it's just going to take time to fix all of these little tweaks that Cora have made. So I'll let Shatters answer that one in a minute, but there is a roadmap for some of these things. We can't do everything at once. We need to do it safely. But N-sequence allows you to do a whole lot of things like replacing transactions, not as replaceable transactions, but as in a transaction that hasn't been sent to the blockchain that you can keep updating. For instance, if you have an auction or you're bidding for something, that you can change over time. So, but knowing that in your channel that you have something that will be set and fixed. The problem that you have with these idiots and lightning and things is taking that channel and making that a promissory note and expecting the whole world now to trust your channel. What a channel should be is a group of individuals who actively engage in something such as an auction and then close it. Not, I'm going to have my channel so that I can make it to the world and bypass Bitcoin. They've completely, utterly mucked up what Bitcoin's about.
Great. Looks like you answered Brennan's question for him. We had another question.
If we can pull on Shatters, he'll give you maybe a bit more of an idea of some of the roadmap we've got at the moment.
Steve, any comments?
Sorry, I was walking across the room and I missed what he said that I was going to talk about. Can you refresh me?
N-sequence and updating some of the things that randomization and whatever other crap that Cora put in.
Oh, like N-sequence based channels. Yeah, I mean, we're working on outside of Bitcoin SV. We're basically working on a Java API that we want miners and merchants to be able to attach to a Bitcoin node. So, I mean, one example out of many is SPV services in a TerraBlock world. SPV services are going to be quite a heavy service to provide, and we need to provide a business model for the SPV service providers. The miners themselves are doing it right now, and they're doing it for free, but they're not necessarily incentivized to do it other than for the global health of the network. But I can envisage a world where every single wallet has the capability built into it to connect to multiple SPV providers and possibly open like a 10-cent channel with a 6-month lifespan or something to an SPV provider so that they can pay 1,000 for the cent per request. What was the other thing, Craig?
That silly randomization delay bit that Paul put in.
Oh, okay. Oh, so yeah, moving on to the performance stuff. Yeah, no, there was a random delay in Bitcoin Core, which we've removed. It's not in the current release of Bitcoin SV. We committed to that release basically being just the changes for the November hard fork and obviously the critical changes like the bug fix from the 0-day bug that was released while we were working on it. But in the background, we've been working on a performance branch, and the first of those was removing that throttling from transaction broadcast rate limiting. We're working on the acceptor memory pool problems, which are all related to the fact that there's a single global lock in the code. That's been talked about endlessly on Reddit, so I won't go into too much detail. Yeah, I mean, we've gone back through what was revealed through the Gigablock testnet. All of those problems, we've got a kind of a separate stream of developers working on, and a lot of that code has actually been written. The reason why it has not gotten into this release is because we've also, in parallel, developed a very rigorous and multi-staged QA process that we're putting all of our code through. What we've done for this release is not as rigorous as we would like, simply because of time constraints, because we had to start with, I mean, we only really got the the signal that we had no choice but to start Bitcoin SV in early August, which is why we kept that change set very minimal so that we would have time to test it properly. But yeah, all of these changes are in a pipeline. What I would envisage in the future, once we've got all of our change control processes in place, is that that changes will probably go through at minimum a 3 to 6 month life cycle before they make it into production. They'll be in the public eye for a very significant period of that time. They'll be open for security researchers around the world to try and poke holes in our code and earn bounties if they want to. I'm not sure if anyone has come across it yet because we haven't made an announcement, but the Bitcoin SV website went live just a few days ago, and it's got the responsible disclosure policy, which includes all of the details of our bug bounty program on it. So hopefully that's enticing enough to get a few people who both are interested in Bitcoin Cash and maybe a few people who despise Bitcoin Cash but really like money might come along and try and find some bugs in our code.
Yeah. So some of the other bits people have been asking about, like the script limits and standard and whatever else. My view is there should only be standard script because everything should be standard. If it runs and a miner accepts it, it's standard. And so the entire is standard bit should just be removed and it should be a script. Now, that just means you pay more for complex ones, you pay less for a simple one. That's simple. Now, as for script limits and things like that, unfortunately, we've had very little time to get all these changes in, and no support from other groups like ABC who want to go off their own wacky way that aren't going to be supported by miners, meaning that rather than having these people help us, we have them working against us. So it'll take longer. If instead of thinking up stupid solutions to non-problems like ZeroConf and changing the damn protocol that is a complete waste of time and effort, people in BU would actually help with scaling, then we might get somewhere. At the moment, everyone wants to get their name on something, and that's what I basically see with BU and ABC, about how they fixed broken Bitcoin. Well, it's not broken, it just needs all of these things removed and a path to scaling, and you can help there or not, but that's what we're doing.
Can I add one caveat to what you were saying about standard scripts?
Yep.
I do see a place for standard scripts, but not in the way that they're being used now. One thing that we're planning on doing with SV is obviously we want to parallelize the transaction validation code path. And let's assume that you have a machine that's got 16 cores. What we want to do is assign, just picking a number out of the air, assign 12 of those cores to scripts that are well known and well understood templates. So pay to script hash, pay to public key hash, etc. 12 of those cores are assigned exclusively to those kinds of scripts. The other 4 cores are available to any kind of script. And whatever that division is, 12 and 4 or 8 and 8, whatever, it doesn't matter. What that does is that it eliminates an entire class of attack vectors. So if somebody comes across a script that has masses and masses of checksig operations or something that ties up all of your CPU power, trying to validate this one script. In fact, if someone goes, you've got 16 cores, I'm going to send 16 of them to you at once, so it ties up every single core. That model actually completely unblocks it. It means that the vast majority of scripts, which are going to be just pay to public key hash, are going to go through these channels, these 12 reserved cores, whilst the rest go through the last 4 that are reserved for any type. So this is a mitigation, I think, that we're putting in place that basically allows for unblocking script and you know, getting rid of the whole notion of standard transactions being rejected. Standard transactions simply get a little bit of processing priority.
Yeah, I agree with Steve there. So that's a better way of saying what I said with you pay more. So thank you for all that, Steve.
Great. Thank you, guys. I think let's try and wrap this up and be respectful here. I think the last just general question maybe to end it, and we pretty much talked about this, but how will November 15th play out, and how long will it take, and what's going to happen?
Basically, what will happen is ABC will dick around.
We'll let him come back again.
While we're waiting for him, just
Sorry about that.
okay, no, never mind.
The fun of nanny states. Don't want me to buy too much at once. Anyway, because I might waste it. No, basically what will happen is our miners will go online, we will mine BCH, we will make sure that anything that happens doesn't split the chain. If they want to split the chain, then they better flip off to something other than SHA-256, because there is not going to survive 2 coins. There's going to be one, and it's going to be us.
All right. Steve, do you have any other comments there? I know you started to talk, but if not.
Oh, I was just responding to George's comment in the text chat. He asked for some insight into why we changed the unlimited script opcodes to 500. I was just typing a response, but I'll just say it. So basically, we did a bunch of tests, and we did show that yes, it does actually increase CPU usage, not to any particular degree, any particularly significant degree. However, we did come across a number of potential attack scripts that exploit weaknesses in the script implementation. We've come up with fixes for all of those, but the simple fact that those existed, that many of them existed, and that we were able to find them in that short of a space of time, suggested that we probably needed a little more caution there. And what I was just describing before about the multiple cores and some of them being reserved for standard transactions is essentially the global fix. So it means that once we've got that in place, it doesn't actually matter if somebody puts an attack script in place or has, finds a new form of script that causes CPU lockup, because they'll be limited to those 4 out of the 16 cores that are designated for unknown script templates. So we just want to get that in place first, because then it effectively makes the whole of Bitcoin resilient to any attack, known or unknown.
Great, thanks, Steve. All right, so I think we're gonna try and wrap it up here. I want to thank everyone here that was speaking and answering questions and asking questions. I know this might have been a little unorganized. I think we're going to keep working on it and trying to improve it. I hope everyone got something out of this, and maybe we can, if you have any feedback now, we can improve this process to make it more valuable. Let us know. I'm going to stop recording, and then Joel has an announcement to make real quick before anyone hops off. So if you want to stay on for 1 second. We're done recording.
Testing. Oh, I'm going to stop recording.